everywhere. Okay. All right. So I know that there's going to be a little bit of roundtable. I mean, obviously picking Michelle's brain about what are the specific functions of Gingr and those updates, maybe to get to know that a little bit more and when those updates are coming out. I know that one of the things that I think would serve everybody is just to talk a little bit about schedule management in general and how do you collect the right kind of data so that maybe I'm a big fan of you start your day well, you end your day well. At least you give yourself a better chance of ending your day well. And I think that so much of that comes from a supportive software program, right? And to Michelle's point, that workflow of how do we collect that information so that the users aren't. We want to preserve the click time, right? Of how many clicks it takes to get from this, that, and the other, and all of those add. You wouldn't believe how many times we add up just the seconds in our business or the minutes in our business. And before you know it, it's hours. And those hours equate to dollars. And I mean, just something as simple as calling pets when they're finished with grooming. If you call all of the pets when they're finished with grooming and you do 20 grooms a day, or let's say you do 30 grooms a day, 30, between baths and haircuts, and each one takes you 2 to 3 minutes to call, you're talking 60 to 90 minutes of time just to call people and tell them that their pet's finished. There's got to be a better use of somebody's 60 or 90 minutes worth of time, maybe building better client relationships, or calling for confirmation calls for tomorrow, or filling gaps in our schedule, or filling cancellation gaps that happen. So it's just things like that, these little bitty things that maybe we can rifle through some schedule management. But I want to serve everybody that's on this call today and just say, start asking questions. Listen, this is your time. Michelle's able to sit here and say, listen, this is how Gingr supports you. I can tell you how Paragon, I get the honor of leading an incredible team of educators at Paragon. My team gets fired up, and I see some recognizable names in this group. So you've either worked with me as a consulting client or with Paragon putting students through. So thank you for all of that. So anybody who's a brave one, who wants to kick off with a grooming question?
Well, we've got one question in the chat box that asks, what would be the pros and cons of using slot-based versus time-based scheduling in Gingr?
Okay. Michelle, you want to tackle that one?
I can certainly try. I don't have any product experts on the call today, so I'll certainly try. My understanding around slot-based versus time-based is just kind of how you manage your capacity. I'm not sure I can get into the ins and outs based on your business in particular, Amy, but really I think slot-based allows you to have a little bit more flexibility over that particular time slot, whereas time-based is just kind of one for one. So that's the way that I recognize it. Again, I don't have any product experts on the call to go into that a little bit more in detail, but there are certainly options. I also think with some of the updates we have coming around the facility calendar, managing both of those will become a lot easier with just the way that it's laid out. Both booking and rebooking appointments will become much simpler as well with the new facility.
Well, and two, from a, whether it's time-based or slot-based, it really is going to depend on, it's really going to sort of depend on what is the best approach you have in your grooming services. So there are grooming businesses out there. Somebody's not muted. We're getting a lot of barking. Can you just double check your mute?
Yeah, Corey Staples, could you please mute yourself?
Really?
If you're able to. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. So where I was going with that was most of the time there's all kinds of different ways of doing business. Some grooming businesses will have appointments on the hour, right? So they're only going to match one grooming producer up with maybe 1 or 2 dogs every hour, and they're going to know what their producer's efficiency is. They're going to know what their producer's experience level is. So they're going to be able to say, okay, this producer gets, and this is what I like about Gingr, this producer gets so many dogs per hour, or these time slots for certain dogs, to sort of pace ourselves in a grooming day. Right. Some places will have all of the dogs come in between 7:30 and 9, and a big chunk of them, and then I'll have another big chunk come in between noon and 1. Or I will tell you, one of the biggest mistakes that we make in grooming, especially, is that we will create systems that cater more to us than they do the pet parents. And that's when you get the phone calls of, why does it take 5 hours to groom my dog? Well, because honestly, if I'm going to answer you honestly, it's because the first 3 hours we didn't touch them. We just wanted them sort of staged here so that we could pick and choose what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. Well, that doesn't really sit well. I will tell you one thing, it doesn't sit well with my wife to have our little dog somewhere for 5 or 6 hours, right? Now, again, it's your choice, it's your business decision. What might sit better is for each one of your grooming producers that they each have maybe no more than 2 dogs that they're responsible for at a time in the facility. So depending on how their speed is and their experience and such, let's say it takes your average grooming producer an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half to do a groom. Well, then maybe you only have 2 dogs come in at 8. You tell the pet parent for both of those dogs to pick up at 11 because there's 2 more dogs coming in. So you give that groomer 3 hours to do their work on an average of an hour and a half per pet. Some of them go faster, some of them go slower. But then what you end up doing is that person's only got 2 dogs in. Think about how much traffic control you've just put into your organization. You're pacing your schedule. So that grooming producer has 2 dogs that come in at 8, 2 dogs that come in at 11, 2 dogs that come in at 2. So that person's doing 6 dogs that day. Now, if they're a faster groomer, one that has greater, faster experience, more efficiency, or maybe they're your groom techs, these are people that don't do all over body haircuts, but they do full service baths and shed control. Maybe they average a dog every hour. So maybe you have 2 dogs every 2 hours that come in, or maybe 3 dogs every 2 hours if they're at a 45-minute average. So you got to get to know your producers at each individual's efficiency. And that's how you can book. And the program at Gingr allows you to accommodate that type of expertise. And one thing we talked about, all right, Gingr, I'm going to let you out. I'm going to let a little cat out of the bag, whether or not they're going to be able to pull this off. But I also think it would be great is if you book 1 slot and it automatically would adjust for whatever skill level that producer is. So if you want to book a slot, Gingr knows because you put it in there that person needs an hour and a half to every 1 slot. It automatically accounts for that in scheduling. So there's all kinds of really cool things that an algorithm, a computer system can do, whether or not it's going to launch right away or later down the road. But I will tell you the safest thing is just know the efficiency of your grooming producers and don't overwhelm them with too many dogs in a facility.
So Joe, I just wanted to say, like, one of the things you and I have chatted about in the past is understanding what is going to walk through your door that day. So like that was one of the challenges that you and I were trying to figure out is there's a reason why some people say, hey, just drop everybody off in the morning and pick them all up in the afternoon, because there's so much variability and like unpredictability about what what type of groom is going to need to be done. You say it's a lab, but it's really a doodle, like those types of things. And so those are some things that we have talked about on trying to capture that information, providing tools, at least in Gingr, to be able to, have a customer send you a picture of what your pet looks like that you want to have groomed, to try to, really fill in those slots in the best way possible by understanding as much about the client before they get there.
Yeah, and that's why that workflow is so important. See, the way that Gingr was set up is you would go find the appointment date, and then you would back into the dog and into the client. When really what we need to be doing is, I would encourage everybody, start with the client first, the biped client first, right? The client that holds the purse or wallet. That's the person, that's what we start with. So we make sure we pull up the client and we make sure we've got all of their information accurate. Then we move down into the pet. And then we book the appointment. Because if we're missing any information or we're incomplete, or we don't have enough information, when we go to book that appointment, we're just setting ourselves up for future failure if we haven't gathered all of the information ahead of time that we need. So it all starts, again, remember, start your day well to end your day well. Well, sometimes that starting the day well start at a time we make the appointment. And that's why that workflow, Michelle, to your point, that's why that workflow is so important to get sort of reestablished.
I wanted to say back when you had said, booking 2 at 8 o'clock and then maybe 2 more at 11 o'clock and whatnot, or whenever hour, depending on who it is that's doing and what you're doing. To Michelle's comment of knowing your client and what the dog is first before they even come in for the appointment, so it's not, you're not thinking you're doing this easy lab, but then now you've got this big floofy dog that's going to take many more hours. I love that idea of that thinking process of having that less stress, because not only is it less stress for the human, for the professional, but it's also less stress for the client who's thinking in their mind that their dog's groom is door to door. They drop off, they get groomed, they get picked up. That's how clients think, that they're not waiting in cages or waiting in a room, or unless that daycare set up for that. Grooming has a little daycare and it's set up for that. So
Mhm.
most clients, me being a client as well, I would have assumed that my dog is a door-to-door groom. I drop them off, they get groomed, I pick them up right after they're done, that there's no wait in between there. The amount of stress that would take away from the animals in the grooming salon as well, I think that trumps everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Having to
And
take
again,
dogs.
if you tell a pet parent, be there at 9 o'clock, they're more apt to show up at 9 o'clock. They're more apt to, you're going to have less no shows. You're going to have less late. But let's say they are late. If you're giving them an hour and a half to 2 hour window to come in, you don't know that they're going to no show until it's really too late. Part of schedule management and being efficient in your business is if they're late for a 9 a.m. appointment at 9:10, we're calling them and saying, hey, are you still bringing Fido in? Because then if they're not, and they need to reschedule, great. We still have time to save that appointment and maybe backfill from our waiting list or whatever. But we're taking control of the day that way, instead of sort of allowing it to sort of run amok on us. And the other part is, those call when dones, if you tell the customer to come back at a certain time, instead of picking up the phone and wasting our time calling somebody and telling them their pet is finished, the best part about that is they pick up a lot. Most of them will pick up on time. You'll clear out your room so you don't have too many dogs there and you've got to potty and water so many times during the day. But the other part is you're being respectful to the pet parent who might want to run errands that day. But if we do a call when done, they don't know. They don't know when their pet is going to be finished. I'll bet you a dollar to donuts that your customers think that grooming takes a lot less time than what it actually does. And then they're going to be calling you. What another waste of time. They're calling you, is my pet finished yet? So if that happens to you, all of that goes away by assigning time ins and time outs. So
Absolutely. And there's been some talk in the comment section. I know, Michelle, you answered one of them, but somebody had said that they're unfamiliar with the Gingr software, and no question is stupid ever. Does Gingr have a feature for automatic reminders and a text option for pickup? And Michelle said yes. So that's pretty cool. Does everybody use that feature? Is the next question. Is, are we using, and this is what this great conversation is about today, is are we actually using, if you are a Gingr user, whatever user you use, are you using those, the ability of the software to its maximum? I have an iPhone and I've had it for like 10 years, and I probably do a third of what that phone is capable of, right? Only because I haven't really researched what I could do with it. I don't need anything more with it, but I'm certain that when we have a software such as Gingr, we don't use everything that it's capable of. Is there something, Michelle, that you would say would be a common feature that you have that a lot of people don't use?
I mean, I think you highlighted it, the ready for pickup text. I can't tell you how many times we have chatted with clients who have been here for 3, 4, 5 years that didn't know that existed, and it's been here from the beginning. Right. And so, absolutely, we have really found in the last couple of years, just with the the industry being so fast paced, there are a lot of kind of longtime Gingr users who don't, we're getting calls left and right. Just, I've been a customer for 3, 4 years. I know I'm not using Gingr to its fullest potential. Can you guys help me? And so we've started taking calls with clients, just to kind of work through, like, how are you using it today? Have you adopted these new features? What are you doing on the grooming side? Are you maximizing your slots or your appointment times? And again, partnering with Joe on kind of what those best practices are, so that we can take those and then share them with our customers, and just kind of sharing the knowledge. I've seen a huge shift in the last couple of years. I've been at this for 7 years, and 7 years ago, everyone was getting creative. It was, everyone was getting into the industry. It really started to pick up. Everyone felt like they needed to reinvent the wheel. And what I'm really seeing in the last few years is more of this driving of best practices, which is, I think, where, Paragon is coming from, and Joe, and a lot of the consulting he does, is how do we drive these best practices? How do we get folks to fully utilize the software that they're paying for every month? Because there's a ton of value to be found there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say would be the next kind of feature that a lot of people, you know, they ask about or they didn't know existed that
I
people should
think
be using?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of our kind of fan favorite features are definitely icons. But there are so many capabilities around icons that I think they're underutilized. There's automation and alerts and things that can happen around icons. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of set it up the way that you like it, but definitely a fan favorite. But I definitely see people who maybe aren't using that to their full potential. And for grooming, they can actually be really valuable. Just kind of alerting you when, you get a doodle on the books, or, something that, might, sway your schedule one way or another. So I think that's another big one for sure.
Awesome. Joe, what would you say would be your best feature that you use? I'm assuming you're a Gingr user.
Well, so I don't have a facility, so I just my main job is running the Paragon School of Pet Grooming, and we don't have an on-campus school any longer, so we are completely web-based. So, but I will tell you, in looking at Gingr, one of the things that I would use Gingr for is that schedule management. I would be looking, and I'm just so thrilled that the facility calendar is getting a tidy up, right? Because I think that the facility calendar to me is the heartbeat of everything. I think that being able to know what's coming down the pike as far as my business is concerned from a calendar look is super important. I will tell you, one of the things that I like to do with any business is prospecting. I like to be able to look ahead and say, what gaps do I have in my schedule? What openings do I have in my schedule? Where can I take advantage of people that really, and I don't know about you guys, but most grooming facilities have clients begging to do business with you. Most grooming facilities have people on a wait list, or we're turning people away because we don't have enough trained staff for that. So looking at maximizing our schedule is super important, while not overworking our grooming producers. This is a physical job. Groomers are different than a lot of the staff that's in the facility. And what we have to understand is that they are a group of artists. They are a group of people that have a skill based value to us. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of them. One of the things I really like about Gingr, and Michelle hinted to this earlier, I'm a numbers guy. I love analytics. I love running reports. Corey, I see Corey there, right? Corey's like, he does love running numbers. So Corey, I'll get an amen from Corey. But my point is reports tell us a story. And what is that story that the reports are telling us? And how do we either celebrate that with our staff? Because it's not always bad. Sometimes it's wonderful. But what is the story that our reports are telling us? And I really like that Gingr's stepping up and creating a much more robust set of reporting.
Can you kind of talk about that reporting, Michelle, a little bit, just for people that may not know or actually use Gingr that's on the call now? What kind of things that those reports are really good for?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I think that these reports are best for folks who are looking to, again, kind of in that growth mode. So really understanding and being able to grow your business. So understanding, what your rebook percentages are, understanding commission splits and kind of trends around those, understanding, add-ons and how many times, your producers are adding add-ons to the different services that they're offering. So trying to provide more reporting that's not just, hey, here's what we did, but things that would give you different data points on how to kind of excel your and grow your business.
Right. What is your average ticket price to the penny? I ask people this all the time in seminars. I was just at the IBPSA Flow conference last week and asked this. And the answers, and I do this, and it's terrible of me, but I set people up in the audience, right? And do you know your average ticket price? And I point at somebody, yeah, it's about $45. Yeah, it's about $60. Yes, it's about. If you have to answer the question with yes, it's about, you don't know your average ticket price, right? And most of the time, you're either underestimating what it is or you're overestimating what it is. And we can't make our financial projections based on that. We can't judge if we're doing well or not based on that. So we can't tell if our average ticket price, if there's a problem with maybe we're accidentally letting services leave the facility without being charged or charged correctly. Without knowing our average ticket price, we don't know that. Very important super important key performance indicator. But the other one is not only how much money are we getting in, how much money is going out. Labor is our number one cost factor. Do we know what our wages to sales ratio is? Do we truly know how much our grooming labor is costing us as a percentage of the money we're getting in? And that's some of the reporting that Gingr's now stepping up and being able to allow us to be able to have on the fly for whatever period of time. And then now, of course, you're going to run the data and you're going to say, what do I do with this, right? How do I fix this? Well, then you let me know and I'll come in and I'll swoop in and help you understand that. But first we have to know the data before we can act on the data.
Oh, of course. I think somebody even said here, reports are fantastic. So obviously we all love reports, and we should have those reports in order to make changes and to progress in the business. Question, kind of going back to, you talked about taking care of our staff and taking care of the groomers, which I do. I think that's super important. And I think as a groomer, your job is so difficult, probably one of the most difficult physically and mentally in the industry. Just my opinion. I just think a groomer's job is just so exhausting. Would there be, and I guess maybe this is, relative to every person, but is there a number that's too much? So even if you're great at grooming and you can zoom through all these animals, just the physical aspect and the emotional aspect, is there too many in one day? Too many in a week? Like, where does exhaustion actually hit a groomer? And where does, have we come up with a number? I guess my question is, have we come up with a number that seems to be a good number of grooming dogs in a day or over a week? That seems, this is manageable. This is something that's not going to exhaust staff.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's going to depend on physical ability, mental ability, the facility itself. It's going to depend on the behavior of the pets. It's going to depend on the coat condition of the pet. There are lots of different variables, a lot of different variables. But I don't want to not have an answer, because I do have sort of a rule of thumb, relatively accurate answer. So an average pet groomer with average pet grooming skills who is doing average pet grooming, right? I'm talking not show trims or creative and color and all of that. I'm talking the run of the mill average pet groomer typically is going to range somewhere between an hour and 90 minutes to complete an average groom. Now, sometimes we have doodles that might take twice that long, but then sometimes we have a Shih Tzu that is a close all over body haircut, a tight, maybe even a reset trim, or that's our term for a shave down, a reset trim, right? But like a close haircut, a low maintenance trim that doesn't take them but an hour to do. So it all balances out. So it is typically somewhere around 6 dogs a day for an average groomer. Now, when I say dogs, that's slots or units. So a doodles are usually 2. So if you have a doodle on the books, that's your first and second dog of the day, right? So you could do 1 doodle and 4 to other dogs if they're single slot dogs. Okay. But typically about 6 is going to put you in the ballpark. Now, groom techs, these are the people that do the labs and pugs and goldens and, our level 1 graduates from Paragon doing groom techs. Typically, they're going to be able to do 8 to 10 a day. That's why we highly recommend a robust team of groom techs, because they're able to do a lot more volume, which generates a lot of profitable revenue, and they become tomorrow's groomers. So you create a farm team with these folks as well. But typically, most of the time, we're trying to get our groomers to an efficiency factor of 1.25 to 1.5 hours per pet.
Okay, interesting. Vanessa also says exhaustion happens with doodles. So what is with a doodle that, because I don't come from the grooming world, so I have lots of questions for you guys. What is about doodle? Is it just their coat, the curly? Is it, what makes them so difficult to, or is it behavior because they're crazy and they're all over the table? What makes them difficult?
A little bit of all of that is probably
matting,
in
yes.
play. Yeah, a little bit. And I think expectations from pet parents, right? I mean, they bought a dog, they spent $2,000 on this dog, right? And then now they're spending, what should be, and I don't want to be mistaken for price setting out there, but it should be probably $120 to $150 an appointment for grooming. If you're not at least in triple digits for grooming a doodle, we got to talk, because really you need to be. Because if you think about it, if a doodle truly does take twice as long as a regular dog, right? And a regular dog generates a $60 average ticket price. Well, if it takes twice as long, it needs to be $120. Otherwise, you're losing opportunity. You're losing revenue opportunity. But I will tell you that there's a lot of folks, and listen, guys, doodles aren't going away. So how do we embrace the doodles? I have a consulting client that they have a groomer, and he says, listen, I'm going to be the doodle king. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, all of the other shops are throwing their doodles at us. They don't want to do doodles anymore. So he said, you know what? I'm going to charge $150 a dog. I'm going to do 3 doodles a day. And I'm going to be known in my market as the doodle king. And this guy is writing his own check. I mean, he's printing his own currency, because he is specializing in that. So how do you take advantage of that type of opportunity? But I hope that answers your question. But doodles it's the matting, it's the hair type, it's the coat type, and they're all varied. They're all different variety of sizes as well. So.
Absolutely. And others had piped in the matting and the condition of the coat, and,
Sure.
how long has it been since, different grooms and stuff like that. That makes sense. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I think Corey had something. Corey?
We've also, Joe, we've also seen, as we're going through this generation of doodles, their coat changes as they grow. We've seen a coat go from, from a golden to a doodle. Like, we've just seen it evolve, or what we have in our notes from previous years is suddenly completely different as they get older. There's just so many factors with them, and they're like Joe said, they're not going anywhere. They're only saturating our market more and more up here in the Northeast.
Yeah. So take advantage of that. Make it worth your while to do them, right? Make it worth your while to do them. I know people that have doodle days. So they said, listen, one way we're going to embrace it, we're going to have doodle days. And doodle days are Sundays, or doodle days are Mondays, or probably not a great idea for Mondays, but pick a day, right? Maybe Wednesdays, maybe Sundays, but it's doodle day. And we all used to do this with cat grooming. I mean, some of us still do it, right? We have cat, if we're going to groom cats, we do those on certain days, right? So we're actually, what can you do to sort of control the inevitable?
Well, this is kind of a conversation. Yeah, this is kind of a conversation of, in a sense, that that upsell. Even though you're not upselling something, you're changing the way that you would advertise it, in a sense. So having doodle day, or that sort of thing, you're maximizing your ability to work with something maybe that's not as enjoyable as working with a lab, something that's much easier. Does anybody have any other comments or questions for either Michelle, for Gingr, or for Joe in grooming? You can either, although I'm going back and forth because we have 28 people on, we had 32, which is absolutely amazing. I'm so glad of how many people are on. So I'm switching back and forth, making sure that I don't miss any hands or any comments in the comment section. What would be something, Joe, kind of talking about upselling and what to upsell and how to upsell? What are some other ideas that you've got that could help others?
Yeah. So, as I look at what traits make for the most successful grooming businesses, and what does the word successful mean? At the end of the day, really, success is based on profit. You could work really, really hard and have $1 million worth of revenue coming in, but if you're not keeping any of it, right, you might as well not be doing it. Okay. So, basic business math: money in, money out, money left. Let's focus on that money left. And I will tell you, bath breeds, full service baths, hire some people that have a predisposition to being successful in grooming, grow them into being a groom tech, let them loose on your full service baths, maybe even riding the back of shed control. And shed control, I know some of you call it D-shed. Anybody that's worked with me knows that I like the word shed control better than D-shed. But shed control will, if you do it right, shed control treatments can completely transform your business from not only a profitability standpoint, but also a revenue standpoint, and will position yourselves to having more groom techs who then turn into tomorrow's groomers. So it's about having the right type of, you'll hear me talk about grooming producers. They're not all groomers. A complete misuse of a groomer's time is to give them a bath dog.
Maybe I can go back.
So we don't want to take advantage of what it is their superpower, and underutilize a groomer's superpower by giving them a bath dog. Not when we can train other people to do that.
I think that's a very good point. Sadie, can I get you, Sadie Newbury, can you just mute yourself? We're just getting a little bit of backlash on your video. Vanessa said they've adopted the same situation. So many doodles, they raise their prices and they see who stays. They haven't perfected it, they say, but it's certainly helping with the stress level. And I imagine that's stress level for staff with working with so many doodles. So, and then we've got a comment here. You can make packages monthly because in South America, they have dogs once a week, quickly groom. What do you think about packages? So she's talking about, I'm assuming, like grooming packages.
Sure, sure. I don't mind packages, but we have to remember, always ask yourself why. What is the why we're trying to answer? Why would we have packages? Is package, you know, what does having a package do that results in anything? For example, let's say it's a bundle of add-ons, right? So let's say it's a bundle of add-ons, and this is what we sometimes we get really cute. We call it the fluffy dog package or the rock and roll package or this package. You're still having to describe all of the services that are in that package or that bundle. So my point is, well, why not just describe those elements anyway and forego the bundle or forego the package, right? Because you're going to end up in that same conversation. And most of the time, what happens is we find that we feel like we've got to discount so heavily if they buy the bundle that if we would have just sold or recommended 2 add-ons at full price, we would have made almost the same amount of money as we did by discounting 3 of them, three services in a bundle. So I'm not a huge fan of bundles, but I've seen them done well. But most are not done well. We just don't give enough information per service that way. So, but I do love add-ons. Add-ons to me are one of the most important things a successful grooming business can master.
And just to add to the packages conversation, I'm seeing a huge shift, and this is outside of grooming too, but just the industry in general. This concept of MRR or monthly recurring revenue is really starting to catch on. I think primarily in the daycare world, like a membership or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with all of Joe's points, like understanding the why behind the package and like how your business is going to benefit from that, how the pet parent is going to benefit for that, how you're going to keep them coming through the door month over month with packages like that. But there is a huge shift in that, along with just, experiences around what you would expect in like the hospitality market, just seeing, those 2 big themes really circling out there right now. So totally agree with Joe on all of your points. But I believe, and we've been talking a lot internally of what are the opportunities to increase that or establish that monthly recurring revenue. Membership-based grooming is definitely, not far from reality. And I think pet parents are starting to expect those types of services bundled together.
Well, and one of the really cool things, this is going to sort of answer Anne's question. What is a good way to keep them consistent with grooming? Them, I would imagine, are dogs coming in consistently or more frequently or more regularly. First off, we have to really get better at rebooking. Our staff has to be phenomenal at the front desk, at our reception, or whoever is the last person to talk to the client before they leave, always asking for that next appointment. We've got to, in our industry, we have done a not so great job of this for decades, right? But we need to. That helps us secure our future business. If you think about something just statistically, if you're able to rebook, let's say half of the dogs that come in, right? Or even a third of the dogs that come into your facility, that's a third less phone calls you're going to have to take later on when those customers need an appointment. That's a third less confirmation calls, or you probably still make confirmation calls, but it's a third less. Think about the effort that you don't have to do to figure out what it is that you have as future business, right? So it's all about curbing time in wasteful areas. So the more you rebook, the more predictable your grooming business is going to be. Now here's really the big push. The real big push is that we understand that there are dogs that come in every 6 months for a shave down. We understand that there are dogs that come in only when the pet parent thinks that the coat or the odor is so horrific that they need to bring their pet in for grooming. We all deal with those, but those are always the most we're setting ourselves up for the greatest chance of failure with those dogs, whether it be injuries during grooming, skin irritations, nicks, cuts, stitches, just damaging the equipment from the groomers, dulling their blades. Just all of that happens with the dogs that we see the most infrequently. So because we have a waiting list, usually a mile long, a lot of businesses have started to say, you know what, we're only going to, and I know this is a bold move, but I really like it. We're only going to serve customers in our grooming. Now, haircuts, you can do this. Baz should still be pretty flexible, but for haircuts, we're only going to serve our haircut clientele with those customers who are willing to commit to coming in every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks. Because think about what happens beyond 6 or 8 weeks with the coat. The coat really gets in bad shape. The dog can get in bad shape. If a dog's coming in more regularly, think about how many more times we get an opportunity to recommend retail supplies, or the dog goes to daycare, or the dog stays in lodging, or the dog sees your trainer, at the very least sees their groomer every 6 weeks, right? So, but a lot of businesses are saying, listen, we're not taking new customers, right? Sometimes they'll lock it down, or they'll say, we're only going to service customers who are willing to commit to every 6 weeks or 8 weeks for grooming. And you don't budge on that. Think about it, you never have that every 6 months shave down. And if somebody really wants to do business with you, because maybe they were referred by their friend or family member, it might change their behavior and create an every 8-week visit, where normally that Shih Tzu was an every 9, 10, or 12-week visitor. Now it's actually picked up in volume and they're going to love their dog even more, because the coat type can actually be longer in some cases than being shaved down and being this skinny little, shaved down rat running around at family functions. And now it's this beautiful, a little bit more fuzzy, fuller coated dog because they come in more frequently.
Well, and I think a lot of pet parents too, I think we give them, more credit sometimes than they understand. I think a lot of pet parents in general do not understand our grooming world, our ability to know like what the coat length should be, and how many weeks we should do that. I think that sometimes we don't explain it to the pet parent the way the pet parent needs to be explained. So, even though we do explain it, I think that sometimes they walk away thinking, oh yeah, 6 to 8 weeks, no big deal. I can wait 9 to 12 weeks. Like, what do they truly know, what matting and the pain that comes with matting causes? Do they truly know that? Do they know how much harder it is to get rid of a mat, once all that fur is matted?
But to jump in on that, they're not the groomers. So we can never expect them to understand it, or to speak groomer, or to be a good groom, be a good even maintenance brusher between. That's where we step in as the expert, and that's why our value is so high. But we've just got to, the way that we help them help themselves is we help them by closing down the intervals between appointments and getting them, what can they do? They can drive their dog to our facility once every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks instead of once every 12 weeks. So if we change the system, we change their behavior. Right. So if we change our system, we change the behavior in our favor. I know there's a couple of really great questions, Michelle, for you about Gingr.
Yeah, I was just one last thing on there. I mean, Joe, you've been talking about this throughout, but for those folks, I mean, at the end of the day, not everyone will listen. Not everyone will come in at like 6-week intervals and things like that. Something that, Joe has really promoted is like, you should charge for that, right? You should maximize that if it's going to take you longer, or, there are ways, I think, to incentivize pet parents to come in more frequently by, if you get a dog that comes in once a year, there's a fee for like dematting and like things like that. Like, make sure you're charging for that. Gingr can certainly support that. And I know, something that Joe talks about a lot is like, charge for your time. Make sure that you are, maximizing your value and charging for that service.
That's kind of where I was going with that too, is that the more that the pet parent knows, if they wait for that matting, I'm going to charge you more because it's going to take me way longer to now help that animal, have a better coat. So in the future, maybe you'll come a little bit sooner so that we don't run into this again. Right. So I think some of that client communication is really important, of why am I getting charged more? Why do I have to come in at 6 weeks and not 12 weeks like I did before? The dog was fine. Like, what do you mean I got to come in? Right. So those are all the questions that I know I've heard.
They do that. I grew up in the hair salon world. Both my grandma and my mom both worked in a salon, and it's really no different, right? I'll probably, I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent to compare the two industries, but I try to find similarities to help me understand the situation. And they do that for humans. You should absolutely be doing that for pets as well.
So Nicole asks, Michelle, does Gingr have the ability to track add-on sales, what staff members sold what, and if we were to do sales, bonus incentives?
Absolutely. Yep. So that's all built into our new commission reporting. So you can track those individually, or you can set up a commission plan for those if you're giving incentives for add-on sales.
Perfect. And then Anne asks, oh, I think Joe, you already answered that one. Joe asked, does anyone run doodle owner trainer sessions on how to brush your dog and reduce matting? And can Gingr track training sessions? So I guess that's a kind of a question for both of you.
Yeah, I'll tell you from doodle owner training sessions. I'm assuming we're talking about on how to brush your doodle and reduce matting. Some have. We have to be very delicate with how we recommend things like this to pet parents, because we don't want to be calling their baby ugly, right? And we don't want to be telling them you don't know what you're doing, but again, they really don't. And I think pet parents really do. We've all had that. I brush my dog every day. I brush my dog once a week. I brush my dog. Either they're completely lying to us in some cases, because the dog is matted as hard as my desk here, right? So they're either just flat out lying to us, or they are overestimating how many times they actually do brush their dog. And if they are brushing their dog, they're probably not doing it right. So they're doing a top coat brush, and they think they're doing it right, but they're not. But again, it's one of those things. We can hold classes, and you can hold classes, and you can, I don't know how well they'll be attended. You could test it out. You could try it, right? But remember, the more that they do in between, the less they're going to need you. So again, can we just take all of that pain and suffering away from them and all of that anguish and just say, listen, we got you. We got you. Just bring your dog in more frequently, right? You don't have to worry about any of that. Bring your dog in every 4 weeks. Give them a plan. They're not groomers. They don't understand what is absolutely needed. So instead of trying to train them to be groomers, let's try to train them maybe being a little bit more frequent with their visits to us. And I think you're going to get a much happier client when we give them reasons to spend their money. We just have to get better at giving them reasons to spend their money. We got to give them a plan. Most people like to be told what to do, especially when they don't know how to do it themselves.
That's very true. How would you upsell to a dog that, not a doodle, just like a terrier with short hair that doesn't require shaving or doesn't need any dematting or anything like that? What would you upsell as a groomer to get that client in? Because I know those clients aren't a lot in the grooming world, in the sense that they could do it all at home. They can have a quick bath, they can brush them out, it's good. I'm talking about the short hair, but those short hair dogs still shed. They still have that kind of little bit of undercoat and need for clean. How would you upsell to those clients that think their dogs don't need it?
That their dogs don't need what exactly, though?
Like a groom, like a bath, or a regular coat clean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's proof in that pets, part of a pet's overall health starts with the pet's hygiene. I mean, it's just like people, right? You don't take care of your own hygiene. One, you're not going to have a lot of friends. Two, eventually it's going to cause some issues for you, right? So the same thing happens for the dog. So a step toward overall pet health is a focus on overall pet hygiene. And that could be everything from coat care to skin care to dental care, right? To their foot, to making sure that their feet are taken care of, right? So all of these things are super important. And these are the things that groomers help solve. So groomers actually have their hands on dogs more often than a pet's veterinarian does. So that's why groomers, the role of professional grooming is so important, right? So, but to just sell people, I don't know that you really have to sell people on this if you do adopt the idea that we have a limited resource, and that is our limited resource is professional grooming, haircuts. So if we have a limited resource with our haircut ability, then what we do is we tell people, listen, we're a limited resource. We need you to come in every so often or we can't take care of your pet.
Absolutely. Amy says we have an a la carte brush option. Fabiola Williams, can you mute yourself, please? We're just getting some back talk on. Thank you. Amy says that they have an a la carte brush out option. That way, if the dog is here for daycare, we can take care of the brushing for them for a fee, of course, which is absolutely awesome.
But be careful what that fee is, Amy, right? So, Amy, I know you, so I know your fee is like probably perfectly priced, right? She's coming on camera now because she's gonna like give me a thumbs up, right? But remember, if you know what your average ticket price is for grooming and how much your grooming tables average per hour in revenue, and you're going to offer a 15-minute brush out fee, what should that brush out fee equal? It should equal at least 25%, if not more, the cost of what you would have gotten from that table or from that grooming producer otherwise, right? Amy, you want to chime in on that a little bit?
Well, actually, I don't have a lot to say on it, but just the conversation that we're having here just reminded me that we do offer that and we need to market it more. So that's my takeaway.
Okay.
But yes,
but remember,
we make
so if
sure
you're
that the pricing is there, we're getting the value and everybody's getting the value for that service.
And really, it's any a la carte service. So let's say it's nails only, right? Some people charge $10 for nails only or $15 for nails only. Listen, call around. I bet the least expensive veterinary visit in your area is probably $35 to $40 for a nail trim. And they price it that way because it's a disruption in their business. Just like it's a disruption in your business, we just don't charge what we need to charge for it. So am I saying charge $35 or $40 for a nail trim? Probably not in most markets, right? But think about your receptionists are distracted by that appointment. You take the dog in the back. Your grooming producer has to take a dog off their table, put that dog on the table, trim the nails, file the nails, do whatever, not nail grinding, nail filing. We could talk about that later, right? But they have to do the nail service for the dog. Then they have to put that dog down. Then they have to get their dog back up. Somebody has to take, you know how many minutes are involved with all of that? A lot. And yet I'll work with consulting clients that charge $10 for a nail trim. I'm like, stop, just stop doing it. It's not worth your time. Really, truly, a nail trim, probably most should be at least $20 or north of $20 for just the nail trim. And then a nail trim and file might add $5 or $10 to that, right? Because it is an abbreviated service. And if you price it well enough, or let's say high enough, the difference between that service and just getting a full service is smaller. So you could convert that customer and say, you know, a nail trim comes included with our full service bath. While Fido's here for daycare today, did you just want to go ahead and have him go through our grooming salon before coming home? We'll do a full service bath. The difference is only $20. The difference is only $30, whatever. Or if they bring the pet in off the street for a nail trim, you say, you know what, our groom techs have some extra time today. Would you like them? You know, that nail trim comes included in our full service bath price. So for just an additional $20 or $25, whatever the math ends up working for the dog in the situation, you can leave him here. Why don't you go shopping for a couple hours, come back, and we'll do a full service bath that includes the nails. So I love using a la carte services as an upsell, as an opportunity for conversion into a full service appointment, which is really better for the dog anyway.
Absolutely. I just want to plug in because we're getting close to the top of the hour now. And for those that might have to leave soon, I know you guys are all busy and we thank you so much for being here. But I just wanted to give out the PAC CEU code just for those that might have to leave and can't continue the conversation. So the CEU code for PAC is CC220065, and I'll add it into the chat as well. CC220065. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt there, Joe. I just
No, that's okay.
That I plugged that in.
Just a tip to convert a la carte to full service appointments. And then if it's a full service appointment, especially one that's like shed control, and then we're going to recommend that dog comes in every 4 to 6 weeks to stay out ahead of the shedding problem. Now you just took a nail trim that comes in once every however many weeks, months, and you just turned it into a full service appointment that might be a revenue catalyst for $60, $80, $90 for a visit every 5 to 6 weeks.
There's also, I mean, quickly, I know we're getting to the top of the hour. The other thing too, Joe, kind of outside of the grooming realm, and I'm looking at Amy when I say this, but as you're trying to upsell someone, there's also, you know, I think, at least in my experience, there's a lot of upselling on, you know, grooming itself. So you've got a la carte and you upsell to like a full grooming service. What we're seeing now, especially for resort-based businesses that are doing daycare and boarding as well, is you start with a grooming appointment and it turns into a daycare appointment. So we're starting to see that shift too, where people are really upselling daycare if you offer it, where you wouldn't have thought of that. It kind of, you know, it goes back to the things we talked about at the beginning of the webinar, about, you know, what the dogs are staying there all day and kind of managing time and things like that, but you can easily upsell services that aren't grooming as well if you offer them.
And Michelle, Ginger's accommodating that better than ever before, right? The
We
new
do that
enhancement.
now. With the new appointment booking workflow, you can very easily add daycare to a grooming appointment.
You don't have to cancel the groom, go set up daycare, and then add the groom after that. You can
Correct.
just whoop, right through. So yeah, that was a good get right there.
Nice. Nicole says, I'm not sure if this is a question or just comment, but when you say charge for your time on services, especially with bigger dogs, older dogs, how would you tackle that with a slower groomer or a new groomer versus an experienced groomer? It takes me X amount of time to groom a pup, but the same dog takes my coworker Y amount of time.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Nicole, we're going to have experience levels that vary because this is, you know, grooming is one of those that we can tie a producer's effort directly to a revenue, right? We can tie it directly to a source of revenue. Where in daycare and lodging, we can't really tie that, right? It's a whole team providing a whole slurry of services. So, bye, Amy. Thanks. But how do you account for that? You have to get to know your grooming producers, and I can show you ways, and we can talk offline about how Corey, you and I we've worked with your team on this and some other folks on here. We study each producer based on the number of hours they work, the number of appointments they do, the revenue that they're responsible for generating. Again, Ginger will report on all of this for us, right? So that we then sit and we say, okay, we know exactly how many hours per dog Betty needs, or Jenny needs, or Billy needs, and then if they're out of spec, if they're a newer groomer or an older groomer or a less able groomer, we take all of that into consideration and come up with what we think their ideal production speed should be. And then we lay out a plan of how do we take them maybe in the next 6 months. We sit down and we talk to them. How can we take you from where you're at right now to where we believe you can be? And what's the financial reward for you when you get there? So we'll put different steps in play that everybody's responsible for. And we meet maybe on a monthly basis with that producer. But you're always going to have some degree of difference with speed. It's what is their best self compared to the industry, compared to their peers, and compared to themselves. So we just want their best self of what they're capable of.
Yeah, on that note, Joe's worked with us. You know, we never used to have our producers clock in and out. And it's super important to do that. So you're actually tracking, you know, how many minutes per appointment are they doing, and then how many dollars are coming from those minutes. And that really helps you with when you're trying to create an equitable, you know, compensation kind of package for everybody. You know, that's how you can kind of meter those things out. But having them clock in and out and figure out how many minutes per groom are they doing, how many minutes per dollar are they producing, you know.
Yep, it's exactly right.
Somebody asks, Michelle, does Ginger Tech support, what does that look like for people that are outside of the USA?
Yep, and I just posted something in the chat. So we offer support. No, that's fine. So we offer email and chat support 7 days a week. So 7 days a week, 13 hours a day, all over the globe. We have phone support Monday through Friday, but only for US and UK right now. And I think we're working on expanding into Canada as well.
Awesome. Somebody asks, what is the best Ginger report to run for groomer productivity? I think that's a tricky question.
I might have to refer to Joe on that one. Joe, what are some of the reports that you use the most?
Yeah, definitely the groomer productivity report, and I might be getting the titles wrong, but I don't have it up in front of me. But you know, there are what I think at least a new half dozen reports that are available to you specific to grooming. So certainly two that really are probably three that are the most important. add-ons, groomer productivity, and the wages to sales ratio. So those really, if you get a handle on how to control and how to manage those three things by leading your team better and developing your team better, you're going to have a much more profitable grooming business. But those are the things, manage the labor, manage the productivity, and manage the add-ons.
Excellent. I missed Vanessa's earlier up. It was a comment of her staff doing daycare dog checks, nose to tails, I'm assuming. And if they notice long nails, dirty ears, simple stuff, they text to the pet parent.
Yeah.
Do you want a quick nail trim? Do you want an ear cleaning? Like, what a great way to upsell. And I know of a lot of facilities too, or daycares or in-home caregivers that they require, especially if they're playing with other dogs, that their nails have to be trimmed before they can enter the play group as well. So that's another great way to kind of say, hey, because a nail can hurt another animal just in play if they have extremely long nails. Not only is it uncomfortable for the animal, but it could be dangerous for the human or for the other animals they're interacting with. So excellent comment there. And then I liked this comment that just came in as well. It's a great conversation, Joe, for brick and mortar, but Kimberly here is mobile. What would you say to that, and how to kind of take all of this information that we've just chatted about in the last hour? How do we take that into a mobile setting?
Yeah, so I think mobile grooming is a great model for an independent business. I think that mobile groomers, I've had mobile groomers come and do my dog in the past. In fact, we used a mobile groomer for several years. But it really depends on how you structure your fee structure and such. Really, what I'm talking about, this managing a grooming, your grooming schedule, really was really, I don't want to say founded, or really sort of grounded in or started by mobile grooming. This application of managing the mobile groomers need what they call cluster appointments. Mobile groomers need they need to have as many appointments in a very tight area as possible so that they reduce their travel time, right? But the way that they do that is I had to wait 6 or 8 weeks to get a slot for my dog in my mobile groomer's calendar, because she was full, and the rotation was right that every 6 weeks or every 4-week rotation came around on this date. So I had to wait until that came around. A lot of grooming businesses are doing that as well. They're saying, I don't have any openings. I do have an opening for an every 4-week appointment starting on October 21st. Right? So you're setting those boundaries right with that customer right from the onset, because again, we have a limited commodity, we have a limited resource, which is professional grooming. So mobile grooming is really where this was perfected. Now, in mobile grooming, mobile grooming might include everything. It might be fully inclusive of all of the add-ons, right? So when we talk about add-on sales, but mobile grooming, typically a mobile groomer is going to charge at least 25 to 30% more just to show up in your driveway, the convenience factor. And then if there's a lot of extra services included as well, then it's probably going to be as much as 50% more. And if you're not, we should talk, because mobile grooming customers are willing to pay for the convenience, and they're also willing to pay for add-ons if you want to structure your services and fee structure that way. I mean, heck, anybody here ordered DoorDash? I ordered DoorDash the other day. I ordered a sandwich, and it was a $10 lunch, but it cost me $20. I paid $10 for the convenience of somebody bringing it to my front door.
Yep.
So customers are willing to pay for convenience.
Oh, they sure are. Absolutely. And DoorDash is a great example of that, because the up fees for that, just to use it, is ridiculous. But if you want it, you're going to use it and you're going to pay it. Absolutely. Michelle, you've answered this one already about the technology being used for mobile devices. And yes, it is. Do you have a parent portal or an app for parents? You said, yes, we have both. Great questions. And then the client portal with Gingr is a game changer. Oh, nice. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey.
Why do you say that, Corey? Like what kind of things? I know we're kind of getting, so for those that got to leave, thank you so much for being here. We're going to end up finishing here shortly, so we're not going over too much time. But yeah, Corey, just kind of explain why you thought it was a game changer.
Yeah, so Michelle, we've been Gingr clients since 2018. Just given we're full service. We do daycare, boarding, and grooming. Just giving the pet parents the ability to book appointments themselves has saved us so much phone traffic and just time and labor on the phone. It's really, I mean, I think we've educated our clients, and there's so many of them are recurring. You know, probably 60% of them rebook stuff on their own now, particularly daycare and lodging stuff. So it's really helped save labor, time on the phone, all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Client portals are awesome because they can kind of navigate a lot of the stuff that we do. I know you guys all have to go. We've got busy lives. Joe, thank you so much. What a great conversation. It's so great to see you again. It was so amazing to see you in person at the IBPSA conference. Michelle, thank you again as well for your time and all the information about Gingr. We got to do this again. This is we had a great turnout today. This was a great conversation. Thank you so very much. The CEU code again is on the chat, and then you can also re-watch this to get that code again if you missed it.
And again, if anybody's interested in growing your grooming team, growing your grooming business by growing your grooming team, my team at Paragon would love to help you with that. Just go to paragonpetschool.com and find out more information there.
I put that in the chat after Michelle put the Gingr app website. So both of them are there. You get that quickly before everybody goes away. But again, thank you so much for everybody, for your time, for your questions, your comments. Amazing conversation today. Have a great day, everyone. And we'll see you the next time. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Joe.
Bye, Michelle. Bye,
Bye,
Joe.
Michelle.